Penei Sewell is supposed to be the best tackle in football. That's what Detroit Lions fans say. That's what the NFL media seems to believe. And that is what the expectation has become for Penei Sewell on a week in to week out basis. But this year, that just largely doesn't seem to be true. There seems to be a discourse between Detroit Lions fans going on that Penei Sewell, even dating back to training camp this year, has been just a little bit of a step behind. Not as aggressive, not as powerful, not as dominant, and overall just hasn't been the same caliber of player that many Lions fans have come to expect from their all-pro right tackle. Now, let's not forget who we're talking about here. Penei Sewell is phenomenal. His accolades over the last 3 years, he is a two-time first-team All-Pro, a three-time Pro Bowler, was named an all-rookie tackle for his rookie class, and is largely believed to be the best right tackle, if not the best offensive lineman in all of football. There seems to be a scheduled post every single year from Pro Football Focus that Penei Sewell set the record for PFF run blocking grade, that Penei Sewell hasn't allowed a sack in X amount of snaps played, that Penei Sewell is the highest rated tackle at this, at that, or at any different position and role he's playing at that given time. And it just seems to be that way for the Detroit Lions. They seem to have a superstar on their team. And as I said, a two-time first-team All-Pro in back-to-back years, a three-time Pro Bowler, and largely talked about as one of the best players in football, which for an offensive lineman is not always easy to do. They often get overlooked because they don't score touchdowns, because they don't run the ball, they don't get yardage. They are the people, they are the players that do the dirty work for, they don't always lead to flashy plays. And Penei Sewell is somewhat of the exception. He is the flashy offensive lineman. He gets the highlight pancakes. He gets the crazy, motions. He gets really some of the greatest highlights that an offensive lineman could have. And I think that's why Penei Sewell is widely regarded as one of the best offensive tackles. On top of the numbers, he seems to be a player that is just entertaining and fun to watch. And I think that leads to a lot of high expectations, right? Every single year, the Detroit Lions come into the season and Lions fans come into the season expecting Penei Sewell to be perfect. If he is not perfect, he is not good in the eyes of most fans. And this year, he has admittedly struggled early in the NFL season. Now, what do I mean when I say that he has struggled? Well, he struggled against Aiden Hutchinson at times during camp. Aiden Hutchinson got the better of Penei Sewell in a few one-on-one matchups, obviously got to the quarterback a couple of times, and that led a lot of people to be, wow, if Penei Sewell is getting beat by Aiden Hutchinson, maybe Aiden Hutchinson is just that good bouncing back from injury. There wasn't any concern. But as soon as you go to week one, he plays Micah Parsons, he gives up a pressure, he gets beat a couple times to the interior. The interception that Jared Goff threw in the red zone was largely a factor of that pressure from Micah Parsons as he was pass rushing against Penei Sewell. And a lot of people saw that and they said, okay, well, Penei Sewell didn't have the greatest first game of his NFL season, but it wasn't bad. He didn't give up a sack. He was okay. He's going to bounce back and be much better against the Chicago Bears. And then the Chicago Bears came around and, well, Penei Sewell played better, but he still isn't really this elite tackle that we've come to know, right? His PFF grade against Chicago, I believe, was 69.5, which isn't bad. 60 is an average player. So 69.5 is well above the average NFL tackle, but it just didn't feel like Penei Sewell was as dominant as he has been in years past. We're used to seeing him in the high 80s to low 90s of Pro Football Focus grades, and that just hasn't been the way he's been playing. That just hasn't been the Penei Sewell that we have seen over the last 2 to 3 years, that we've seen in the first couple of weeks of 2025. But again, let's go back, take a look at 2024 and look at the type of player that the Lions have and the type of expectations that have been put upon his shoulders. In 2024, Penei Sewell allowed just 28 pressures across his entire NFL season. He allowed just a singular sack on the year, just 5 quarterback hits, 22 quarterback hurries, while being graded out overall as an 87.5 Pro Football Focus grade and a 90.5 run blocking grade from Pro Football Focus. That is the highest grade PFF has ever given out to any offensive lineman for their run blocking grade, and it is something that is really impressive, and that there set another expectation, the bar even higher than 1 to 0 sacks a season. Right now, Penei Sewell also week in and week out has to be a flashy, dominant run blocker who pancakes defensive linemen, get to the second level, and just dominates every single play week in and week out, snap in and snap out. Now, going into 2025, Penei Sewell has not been a bad football player. And to say that Penei Sewell has been struggling is a little bit disingenuous. Is he quite as dominant as maybe he was last year? No. Is he quite as dominant in the first 2 weeks as he was over the last 2 seasons? I would argue that no, he has not been. But he is far from being a poor player this season, even after going up against Micah Parsons on less than a week of preparation to really get ready to pass protect against him. Even despite not playing the greatest game against Chicago, Penei Sewell still grades out as a top 10 tackle across the board in all of football. His 75.2 Pro Football Focus grade has him as 8th right now in the NFL among all qualified tackles that have been graded by Pro Run Blocker among all tackles in the NFL, and his 69.5 pass blocking grade puts him among the top 10 tackles for pass protection as well. On the season, despite playing Micah Parsons and Montez Sweat, 2 division rivals, 2 players that are very good at getting to the quarterback in back-to-back weeks to open the season with a new offense and new offensive play calling, Penei has allowed 0 penalties, which of course is the best in the NFL, 0 sacks, which again ranks first in the NFL, 0 quarterback hits, which of course is first in the NFL, and just a singular pressure, which yes, led to the interception in the red zone, yes, led to a loss of possession, but he is still one of the best tackles in football. And even though he hasn't been quite as dominant in the run game, there is no realistic world. There is no situation that you could look at Penei Sewell and say he struggled through the first couple of games of the week. He may have been a little bit lesser and maybe less dominant than he has been in previous years. He might not have had the highlight explosive hit to knock over a defensive end or completely shut out a player like Micah Parsons to open the season. But to say he's been struggling is just disingenuous. And a lot of the offensive line issues in the first week came from the interior. They came from the lack of communication. They came from the rookie and the second-year player and the new player at the center position in Grand Glasgow, all having different ideas and all communicating poorly. That led to free rushers in the interior. That led to Micah Parsons getting his sacks. That led to a lot of the pressures and the impact that Micah Parsons had. Snap basis. Penei Sewell did not play a bad game against the Green Bay Packers. He did not play a bad game against the Chicago Bears. And I think he's falling back into that reality of, okay, we haven't seen a highlight play from Penei Sewell in the first 2 weeks. So in many fans' minds, that means, oh, he's regressed, he's bad, he's poor. But in reality, that simply isn't the case. Through 2 weeks of the NFL season, through 130, 140 offensive snaps, Penei Sewell is perfect on quarterback sacks, perfect on quarterback hits, perfect on penalties, and just one play out of over 130, Penei Sewell has allowed a singular pressure to maybe the best pure pass rusher in all of professional football. Penei Sewell is elite. Penei Sewell is still an elite football player, and he is going to continue to be an elite football player every single game for the Detroit Lions. And they are going to need him to do so, because going over the next couple of weeks, their pass rushers that they will be playing, the pass rushers and the defenses that they will be facing are not going to be pushovers. Next week, obviously this week playing the Baltimore Ravens without a truly elite pass rusher, but a good rotation of pass rushers on that D-line. And while he certainly gave Penei Sewell a run for his money, and I would even argue won the day against Penei Sewell on a snap test in week 4, the Detroit Lions will go toe-to-toe with Myles Garrett. In week 5, they will go toe-to-toe with Trey Hendrickson. In weeks 8 and 18, they will face that vaunted Minnesota Vikings pass rush. In week 12, they will face Micah Parsons yet again. And that's not even accounting for all the other good pass rushers that they're going to play. The Brian Burns of the world, the Montez Sweats of the world that they're going to have to play again, right? Obviously, we mentioned the Vikings, but they have 3 or 4 players that could potentially give Penei Sewell an opportunity to maybe not look as dominant as he has been. You go through this schedule, in just about every single week, they play either a great pass rushing unit or a fantastic individual pass rusher. I would argue with the Cincinnati Bengals, with the Cleveland Browns and the Green Bay Packers twice, Micah Parsons is going through a gauntlet of the top pass rushers of the NFL this entire season. He also plays TJ Watt when the Detroit Lions take on the Steelers. So with TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson, and Micah Parsons twice, that is 5 games. That is a third of his season facing a top 3 to 5 pass rusher in the NFL every single week. And I still have confidence that Penei Sewell is going to be able to make the most of it. I absolutely believe that Penei Sewell is an elite offensive tackle, and we haven't seen Penei Sewell catch a hook and ladder. We haven't seen him do anything incredible, but we also haven't ever really seen him get beat a ton, right? I can think of, again, a singular play where Micah Parsons got the better of him. Penei Sewell is still an elite offensive tackle. And I know that some fans are worried because, yes, he got beat by Aiden Hutchinson in camp, who again is a top 5 pass rusher. He got beat a couple times by Micah Parsons to the inside. He got beat once or twice by Montez Sweat. Those things happen in the NFL. But the reality is, Penei Sewell across all Pro Football Focus grades is still a top 10 offensive tackle in the NFL. He has not allowed a penalty, a quarterback hit, or a quarterback sack on the season. And Penei Sewell is still not only the best offensive lineman for the Detroit Lions, not only the best player for the Detroit Lions, but he is still, in my opinion, the best offensive tackle in professional football. So with that being said, that is all I have to say about the Penei Sewell situation. He is okay. The Detroit Lions are okay. They will continue to be okay. And as we move through the season, we are going to need Penei Sewell to play some of his best football as the Lions face some of their toughest competition. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Let me know down in the comments below if you're worried about the struggles that Penei Sewell has seen, if you feel as though Penei Sewell has been struggling at all throughout the first 2 weeks of the season. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions, but with all that being said, so I got for you guys right now. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions!